And if you are new or here for the first time, my name is Matt. I get the joy of being a priest in the Church of England. I get the joy of leading this beautiful church, and I love that you are here. So today we're doing something slightly different. We are moving into a kind of a family service. So this is talk part 1. My whole goal is 2 talks, somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes. I'm aiming for 8 minutes. We all know it's going to be 10. So, and that's where we're going to try and land. Is that all right? So we're going to do 8 to 10 minutes now, and then we're going to have a donut break, and then we're going to come back. Dan's going to lead us again, and then we're going to come back. Is that okay? Cool. So can we dive in? If I've asked you to read, will you come? Guys, come on up. And we're going to read. So there's this beautiful story this morning that we're going to dive into where Jesus, thank you guys. Come on. Thank you so much. We're diving into this beautiful story where Jesus asked 2 lots of people, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And we see 2 lots of people respond in very different ways. And so, Gabe, over to you.
James and John came to Jesus. They were the sons of Zebedee. "Teacher," they said, "we would like to ask for you a favor." "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked. They replied, "Let one of us sit at your right hand in your glorious kingdom. Let the other one sit at your left hand." "You don't know what you're asking for," Jesus said. "Can you drink the cup of suffering I drink? Or can you go through the baptism of suffering I must go through?" "We can," they answered. Jesus said to them, "You will drink the cup I drink, and you will go through the baptism I go through, but it is not for me to say who will sit at my right or left hand. These places belong to those they are prepared for." The other 10 disciples heard about it. They became angry at James and John. Jesus called them together. He said, "You know about those who are rulers of the Gentiles? They hold power over their people. Their high officials order them around. Don't be like that. Instead, anyone who wants to be important among you must be your servant, and anyone who wants to be the first must be the slave of everyone. Even the Son of Man did not come to be served. Instead, he came to serve others. He came to give his life as the price for setting many people free."
Jesus and his disciples came to Jericho. They were leaving the city. A large crowd was with them. A blind man was sitting by the side of the road, begging. His name was Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus means son of Timaeus. He heard that Jesus of Nazareth was passing by, so he began to shout, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many people commanded him to stop. They told him to be quiet, but he shouted even louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call for him." So they called out to the blind man, "Cheer up, get on your feet. Jesus is calling for you." He threw his coat to one side, then he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to be able to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Right away he could see, and he followed Jesus along the road.
Thank you so much. Can we thank these guys, everybody? Okay, I want you just to break into 2s and spend literally 20 seconds asking the question, what's one thing that was surprising? One thing you want further clarity on? Is that okay? 20 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. 20. Okay, right. Come on in. So, everyone got one thing they're kind of intrigued about? Good. Okay. A few nods. So, kids, I'm going to ask you a few questions in this talk. This is not just an adult talk. I want you kids to partake in this. Is that okay? Kids, is that okay? No, of course it's not. So it's super interesting. Jesus speaks to 2 groups of people and asks that question, what do you want? What do you want? The first are his disciples arguing about who's the greatest, who gets the glory, who should be at the front of the queue. And the second man, Bartimaeus, this blind man sat on the side of the road. Moments apart, Jesus is asking the same question. What do you want? What do you want? The first what do you want puts the emphasis on resisting the question. What do you guys want? Yeah, there's that kind of moment where Jesus, I think, is like, tell me, what are you asking? Yeah, you're about to get told off with that kind of tone of voice. It's a resist. There's demand from the brothers. The second he hears Bartimaeus crying out, and he goes, and I think he kind of in my little world, I kind of see him getting down and saying, "Hey, Bartimaeus, what can I do for you?" The tone is wildly different in the Greek. The one is an act of submission, and one is a moment of entitlement. Jesus, as ever, is looking at the condition of the heart. One wish fulfilled, and the other wish, Jesus says, oh, what can I do for you? It's this moment. Kids, can you think of one example of a moment where you asked your parents for something, or one of your parents for something, and you thought it was really good, but they said no? How did it feel? How did it feel in that moment? As if he smirks. It's tricky, isn't it? I think that what we see happening here is like God knows us. He sees us. He understands us. He knows what is best for us. And therefore, when we come to him and we ask him, if there is something that is not good, he helps us see his plan for our lives. Kids, one of the things I think is most cool about God in this moment is that Jesus doesn't just empower us to live our selfish lives, our best kind of lives, that we're tempted to believe that life is all about us, but rather he gives us the joy in serving people around us, serving our community, loving them, caring for them, both inside the church and out, when we feel like it and when we don't. One of the questions that I want to ask all of us, kids included, this morning is, can you think of one example of where someone has cared for you? Like really genuinely cared for you in an incredible way that made you feel special. Remember those moments, they stay with us for a lifetime. It's interesting, isn't it? Like what does Mark say? Don't be like that. He said, if anyone wants to be important amongst you, they must be your servant. Your servant. Fascinating moment where the tables are turned. So this was me getting ordained 10 years ago in Winchester Cathedral, and I was one of the youngest priests in the country at that point. And so, yeah, thanks so much. When I, was like not tired and had loads of energy, and so yeah. And this is me. And so this man here, this man is the fourth most important bishop in the Church of England, the Bishop of Winchester. Doing what? Washing feet. It's amazing. The first thing that happens to you when you get ordained is the bishop comes and washes your feet to remind you not to lord your position over people, but to serve people, to love people, to care for people, to embark upon the ministry of Jesus, which wasn't to stand aloof, but to get involved and to love deeply. Jesus consistently offers a different message to the world around us. When the world says, become great, do everything to be the boss, aim for the highest position, aim for the best place in the queue, James and John have got it wrong. They are bringing main character energy, and yet Jesus offers us a different way of loving and serving. Not seeing people as a way to achieve greatness or below us, or to make people as a tool to get ahead, or to make us look better. But he flips the question and enables us to practice what he preaches and he does and the way that he loves. Verse 45, even the Son of Man did not come to serve, but instead he came to serve others. He came to give his life as a ransom, as a price for setting many people free. Just like Jesus, we are called to serve in this kind of way. This is what he wants of us. This is what he desires. Yet the disciples in verse 37, they say, let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in glory. Let one of us sit at the right and one of us sit at the left. Like, let us have the best places. When we get to heaven and you are being glorified and the angels are singing and all of our senses are on overdrive because we see the glory of God, let us be at the front. Let people see how good we are. Yet Jesus says, none of you know what that really means. This question Jesus sees. And I think we see the way he responds in the way that he prays, in the way that he acts, the way that he speaks to his Father in heaven, not simply serving his will, but God's will. Jesus is secure, he's confident, he's humble enough not to ask the question, what do I receive, but what can they receive? Or Alan Cole says this: they sought from Jesus a monarch's gift, a sort of blank check upon his favor. They wanted the highest position in heaven. James and John are some of the greatest disciples. They're in the top three, right? Jesus' top three disciples, they are there. They're probably related to the great high priests. They are, members of society. They understand what it means to be ahead. And I think the danger here is that they believe that they were owed more than they got. They believe that they were entitled to more than they could receive. The temptation that they are more worthy than everyone else, we all face from time to time. This is the greatest way I think the devil tests us and tempts us. What can we get? Don't we deserve better? How can I get more glory? We have to fight these temptations and be reminded again of what Jesus has done. And that there are not different levels of Christians, but there is one level, the servant king, the king who comes to serve, in whose image we are made, in whose teachings we embark upon, whose ambition to love with all our heart and all our soul and all our strength, and to become like Jesus. And so I want to conclude this little mini section with this quote. Humility and submission are not popular Christian virtues, but they are the basic necessity, for they are founded on the servant example of Jesus himself. How can we embody this? How can we embark upon being servants of the great high king? How can we choose to not put ourselves at the front of the queue, but serve one another? And so we're going to break here. So we're in part 2 of the talk. And so remember the first half? 2 conversations. What do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you? Jesus calls us not to think better of ourselves, but to take on what other people need for us. Take on his character. You remember what Jesus did? He gave himself. He emptied himself for us. So verse 46, 47 and 51 to 52. Jesus and his disciples came to Jericho. They were leaving the city and a large crowd was with them. A blind man was sitting by the side of the road begging. His name was Bartimaeus. He heard Jesus of Nazareth was passing by, so he began to shout, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy upon me." Many people commanded him to stop. They told him to be quiet, but he shouted even louder, "Son of David, have mercy upon me." "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to be able to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Right away he could see, and he followed Jesus along the road. I still find it kind of mad that people are holding Bartimaeus back from Jesus. Just picture the moment that this guy is sat on the road, screaming, "Jesus, Jesus." And the disciples and the others are like, "Come on, mate, like, pipe down." Like, just imagine the scene, right? Like everything within us, we're like, no, bring that person to Jesus. Yet on the side of the road, they're holding them back. And it's kind of interesting because I wonder whether it sparks a question within all of us. Like, what are we doing or saying or behaving in a way that's holding people back from believing? It's stopping people from seeing the goodness and greatness of God. And I guess the second question is, do we have the same level of perseverance that Bartimaeus has? Like, are we willing to sit and be like, "Hey, Jesus, I'm here, move. Jesus, I'm here, heal. Jesus, I'm here, come speak." Do we have the same level of perseverance with Jesus? We're desperate to be healed, desperate to be seen, keep shouting out, because God hears our prayers. God hears our prayers. God is active, especially I think when we look like and feel like Bartimaeus, especially when it feels like there is no hope and we feel down and out. Now, I don't think that's to say God answers every prayer. There are prayers that I have prayed that have not been answered, that have been significant. And I'll go to heaven asking, "God, why did you not work in that way?" But I do think that God works. I do think he is present. I do think that he is with us. I do think that when he promises to be a wonderful counselor, he will be our wonderful counselor. Remember the question that Jesus asks, "What can I do for you? What do you want me to do for you?" Like, if Jesus was here in this room today, what would you answer? What would you say? If Jesus came through those doors and said, "Hey, what do you want me to do for you?" What's the first gut response? I genuinely believe that this is the place that we see God working most apparently. And this should give us good theological framework to know how to ask God for things, to find the state in which we find ourselves, and therefore God meets us and reaches out to us in. And like Bartimaeus, we are called not to allow other people around us or the devil to dictate who we are and what we think or the outcome of what the interaction with Jesus will look like, but persistently fight our way through the crowd in order to be seen and heard by Jesus, our Maker and our Redeemer. One of the questions I love about this story is the blind man, Bartimaeus. He personifies our faith. Although we can't always see the work of God, we can hear the work of God. And as we hear the work of God, we can cry out to God. God, I've seen the way you worked in the Bible. God, I've seen the way you worked in other people's lives. God, I've heard this story. God, thank you for that thing we saw on Instagram or TikTok where we saw people being healed and restored. We can hear the work of God and we can cry out in faith. We have ears to hear of his goodness, his work, his salvation. And therefore, as we start crying out, in those moments, Jesus starts to heal and restore us again, giving us spiritual sight and freedom. But what does Bartimaeus do? Bartimaeus does what the disciples should have done, humbly throwing himself onto Jesus as if he is their only lifeline, not claiming authority or superiority or a higher rank or a place at the front of the queue, but rather Jesus, lowly and unentitled, says, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? And he just cries out, I want to be made well again. I simply want to be made well again. And therefore, how does Jesus respond? He says, go, your faith has healed you. Right away he could see, and he followed Jesus along the road. All the evidence suggests that Bartimaeus' faith and his persistence in seeking Jesus, his relentless crying out when other people, they pushed him to one side, he moves from a place of being downtrodden to full of life. And this is what Jesus wants. Jesus wants us to notice the people that no one else is noticing. What does it look like for you in the places that you live and work and breathe? What does it look like for you in your schools, in university, in the workplace, in your family, with the people in your street? What does it look like for you to notice people that no one else notices? Now, what's really astounding about Bartimaeus is that his name means valued or honored. Bartimaeus' name means valued or honored. One of the great church leaders, as the church in its earlier stages was kicking off, a guy called Augustine makes the point that Bartimaeus has come from prosperity and privilege to begging on the street. He's come from a place of honor to begging. He's gone from the highest status to the lowest status in his world. And isn't this how Jesus finds us? We are born with the title son and daughter of the King. We are born with this beautiful honor and privilege. But God doesn't always find us in the most glorious places. He finds us often in the spiritual gutter of life. He finds us looking for life in the wrong places. And only when we cry out, Lord Jesus, have mercy upon me, do we turn to Christ. Do we find our lives? Do we know who we are truly called to be? The disciples are looking for glory in their name. Bartimaeus is looking for glory in his name. And Bartimaeus gets what the disciples need, a clarity of vision. Help me to see again. This statement is both physical and spiritual, and the disciples need to learn. This is the cry of the disciple, to understand God's kingdom again and anew. And it's kind of wild, the response from Jesus. Go, your faith has healed you. Go, your faith has healed you. And so I wonder where Jesus is restoring Bartimaeus' sight is leading us. I wonder where his hoping and wanting for the disciples leads them. The same kind of revelation that Bartimaeus gets is what we need today, because we don't always call upon him. Yet he is there. He's choosing us to be disciples who will love and serve and give, to help people understand his will and his life, to tell them what he has done, and to help all people see that they can have a restored vision, both physically and spiritually, in and through Jesus alone. And so here is my long conclusion. I want to conclude and I want to then read a bit of Isaiah 35 because I want you to see how Jesus is beautifully fulfilling a prophecy from the Old Testament in these stories. We see two stories, two moments, two events in this beautiful passage. The first is where Jesus humbles his disciples who want themselves to be at the front of the queue, head of the pack. The second is where Jesus heals a man, brings him back, who cries out, not in strength, but in his deepest pain. Bartimaeus is a symbol of who we are as we find our life in and through Jesus. And I think these two events are deliberately placed back to back in Mark, so we can see the condition of the human heart and the fact that we have to come back to Christ, humbled in order to serve, humbled in other words to love. It's interesting. We find our lives as we are called, like Jesus, to serve and to love God with all our heart and to care for the people around us. And so listen to these words from Isaiah 35. Listen to how they interweave themselves into these stories. The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. Strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear, your God will come. Then the eyes of the blind will be open, the ears of the deaf will be unstopped. Then the lame will leap like deer, a mute tongue will shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert, and a highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk in that way. And the Lord has those who the Lord has rescued will return. They will enter into Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. These are the promises of God. And therefore, can we pray? Is that all right? If you're able, would you stand? If you're not, just be seated. And we're going to wait on the Holy Spirit.